Hi, let's revisit Solana, ticker symbol SOL, currently at $147.92, going down slightly a little bit in price. Solana is currently at market rank number 7. It became one of the top 10 coins with a market cap of 44 billion. Now this is a chart of Solana's US dollar price, but we won't look too much into the US dollar chart. Instead, we will look at Solana valued in Ethereum. So that's this chart over here to find out how is Solana outperforming Ethereum. Because still, even though Solana is at market rank number 7, it is still more risky than Ethereum. It's got a market dominance of 2%. Ethereum is slightly below 20%. So still you're looking at one order of magnitude smaller. So you need to get outperformance versus Ethereum, which we fortunately also do see. Here we've got the price in Bitcoin, so the Solana price divided by the Bitcoin price. And we will also make comparisons to competitors, namely BNB. So this is now relative performance to BNB, to the Binance coin price. And we will also look at Solana in FTX tokens, so ticker symbol FTT, because Solana is pretty closely tied to the FTX exchanges ecosystem. If you look, for example, at the popular DEXs built on Solana, for example, Serum or Radium, to my knowledge, those DEXs, they do also tie into the order books of FTX to allow things like limit orders. So there seems to be a strong connection between the two. And that's why we're going to look at outperformance versus the FTX token. So the Solana price divided by the FTX price. And so let's jump into the technical analysis. The most obvious thing is this upwards trend, right? This is now the US dollar chart. We do seem to trend upwards, and the current risk versus reward doesn't look too pretty, right? We might fall 50, 60%. We might gain maybe 40% or so, depending on how long it takes. So in general, pretty high on this trend. But the problem I always have with US dollar charts is that they are highly correlated with the overall crypto market. They are highly influenced by all of crypto. And so you see a lot of cryptocurrencies, they go up since the 20th of July. This is no different for Solana. So since the 20th of July, we see a 5x here. When we look, for example, at BNB, it's the same thing. The bottom here on the 20th of July, we went up much less though, 58%. And also FTX, same thing. We bottomed at the 20th of July and since then went up. So you do have a lot of correlation between the assets, at least if you look at the US dollar chart. And so that's obviously a problem, because if all of crypto is going down or if all of crypto is going up, the altcoin is likely to follow to some degree. Not to the same degree, right? Solana went up like 10 times more than BNB, but still the general direction, it seems to be pretty much the same across assets. And so what we really want to look at is relative performance. We want to look at how does Solana perform relative to Ethereum, for example. And if we now look at the 20th of July, we see that at the beginning, Solana actually did not outperform Ethereum. It went pretty much in tandem. But then once trading volume increased, the price shot up. And this is something that is very typical for crypto in general. When attention increases on a certain asset, then the price tends to increase as well. So if you look here at the 19th of May, attention was very high. A lot of trading happened for the SOL coin. And so the price was also relatively high. Once the attention bleeds, once trading volume cools down again, then the price also tends to follow. So that's why in general, it's pretty dangerous to buy at elevated trading volume days, because you do have the potential to fall back to normal levels and then the price tends to follow as well. So this is now what we saw in greater magnitude recently, right? The highest trading volume day was the 7th of September. And since then, we fell relative to Ethereum by almost 18%. And so this is currently how it looks like, right? It looks like trading volume continues to go down. And so the price cannot stabilize, the price continues to fall. Now, in general, I do like Solana fundamentally as an ecosystem. There's quite a lot of projects built on top of it. There's DEXs, there's NFTs. And the main advantage is obviously the low cost coupled with the high transactions per second. So fast processing, low cost, and Solana here really wins the race. Now, the question fundamentally is obviously how well can Ethereum establish the proof of stake, right? Will proof of stake really increase the transactions per second for Ethereum? Will it reduce the gas prices massively? Because if that's the case, and if this transition happens quickly, then of course Solana has to look for a new unique selling point, right? Then just being fast and cheap isn't enough anymore, because then you've got a larger ecosystem that has even more NFTs, that has even more DEXs, not to mention all the ERC20 tokens, all those projects that have raised money through Ethereum. You need to really find your niche here. And so betting on Solana over the very long term is kind of like betting on the blockchain finding that niche, or on the other hand, to bet on Ethereum not being able to implement proof of stake properly, or at least to take way longer and to give enough room for competing blockchains to take on some market share. Now, one of those competing blockchains is BNB, and I kind of feel Solana and BNB, they fall into a similar bucket of cryptocurrencies because they have this high backing of a centralized exchange, and they tend to be pretty fast and pretty cheap. And so we've seen that with Solana recently as well, right? There was this outage, not necessarily because of the centralization, but because of a bug. So there was basically an overloading of the blockchain. There were too many transactions posted to the blockchain. And so that brought Solana to an outage of like several hours. I think it was like 8 or 12 hours, something like this. But the nature of the blockchain being something that is highly backed by a centralized exchange, the nature of that blockchain seems to be relatively similar to me. But correct me if I'm wrong. Let me know if there's other really big backers, or if you think that Solana will still be very popular even without FTX. These kind of nuances, they would be very interesting. But so far I put them in a similar bucket. And if you compare the market cap of both, BNB is now at 71 billion, Solana is at 44. So BNB isn't even double the size, but as a centralized exchange, Binance is obviously way larger than FTX. I don't know the exact numbers, but it's probably roughly one order of magnitude larger in terms of trading volume. So in that regard, Solana might be overpriced. And also, if we just in general consider upside potential, how high should Solana really rise? If we're now at 44 billion, if it goes 10x from here, it's larger than Ethereum. And that's now again just relative valuations, right? I'm really just interested in the relative chart and how does it outperform. So a 10x on the chart would look something like this. So if Solana hits this point over here, it would have outgrown Ethereum. Now, I'm not sure how likely that is given all this adoption that Ethereum has, especially with ERC20 and also with all those NFTs, right? OpenSea, Rarible. It's all mainly marketplaces for the Ethereum-based NFTs. So I don't see a 10x here anymore. This is pretty unlikely. At least a 10x versus Ethereum in US dollars. Everything can happen, obviously. But right now, we seem to be rather in a consolidation than in anything else. Now, this is the relative chart to BNB. BNB did have quite a run since the beginning of the year. This is the BNB to US dollar chart. Since the beginning of the year, where Bitcoin dominance started to fall, BNB went up 10x. And that's not surprising because altcoin trading, it did go through the roof. Bitcoin dominance fell, and so people looked for ways to trade. And so the whole BNB ecosystem, it did grow massively, but Solana even outgrew this. Solana versus BNB since beginning of the year went up by 7x. And so if we now look at the US dollar price, right, since beginning of the year, we see this incredible move, 82x since the beginning of the year. Now FTX has its own token. It's got ticker symbol FTT. It's at market rank 24 with a market cap of 8 billion. So 8 billion versus 44 billion for Solana. This is the relative performance. Of course, Solana outperformed this by 6x. But the FTX token also had quite a run, right? Since the beginning of the year, more than 10x. Now it's interesting how correlated those two tokens are. Solana to US dollars, quite a lot of trading here in April, then here in May, and now just recently. This is FTX, April, May, and just recently. So really there is quite a bit of connection between the two. At least the charts indicate that. And so I think the best approach for Solana right now is to wait for a consolidation. To basically wait until we have normalized again in trading volume, until we are back to normal levels. And once we have established normal trading volumes and the price does not fall, so maybe the price consolidates in some kind of corridor and there's not a lot of attention, then it does make sense to buy. Right now we are still relatively elevated. And so it doesn't look particularly cheap to me. The US dollar chart doesn't look very cheap. The Ethereum chart with its trading volume doesn't look very cheap. And even though the general crypto sentiment currently is very positive, things tend to go up, Here, look at Avalanche, 50% in the last 7 days. Solana has got a quite rough ride, right? A lot of things go up. Solana is performing pretty poorly. If we just sort this last 7 days by performance, these are now the top 100 coins. Solana was the third worst performing of the altcoins. So really there's some kind of deflation of the price happening right now. Attention is going down. The network outage didn't help either. And so my approach here is to simply stand on the sidelines and wait. At this current relative valuation to Ethereum, we are probably not directly shooting up from here. I would be very surprised if that happened. But of course, this does not mean that the US dollar price can't go up. Because if all of crypto is going up, this will also help the Solana price. But I think in relative terms, in relative risk versus reward, Solana is probably not the best bet at this very moment. It might be again in the future, but currently the price still looks inflated to me. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to join our community. We've got Telegram channels, a public chat with approximately 600 people. Simply click the link in the video description or search for Bitcoin Strategy channel within the Telegram app. You can also follow my personal market opinions and follow video announcements. That's here in the second channel, the Bitcoin Strategy News. Same thing, there's a link in the video description, or simply search for Bitcoin Strategy News. Thanks in case you've already liked the video, it will help the channel grow. And last but not least, feel free to subscribe as well. I publish a video every single day. See you next time. Bye bye.